Welcome to the Life You Love podcast.
We're your hosts, Grace Lemire
and Erin Convertini.
This podcast is for the dreamers and the doers.
For the women who want to create a life they genuinely love waking up to.
We believe that life's short, so let's build one we love. Welcome back to another episode of the Life You Love podcast. We just got off the interview with our guest, Caitlyn Kumi, and I am so inspired. We were just talking before we hit record again to record this intro about how I was just like, I need to get my life together. Like, she is so inspiring. Caitlyn is a marketing professional in big tech, a successful personal finance creator, and the founder of Miss EmpowHer, a digital media and women's empowerment company, all at the age of 24, which is crazy. We chatted all things owning a media company, building your personal brand and network, content creation, and managing your life when you have a million things on your plate. And this is just one of those episodes that I can't wait for you guys to hear because I'm fired up. I'm so inspired. I'm like ready to leave this and be like, all right, I'm gonna go get my life together today.
Yeah, this was just such like a feel-good episode. Caitlyn is so inspiring, and I think she has a lot of really good kind of like mindset tips on managing a lot of different things. And half of the reason why we wanted to bring her on was just to like kind of share her awesome story of like owning a business, being a content creator, managing all of that with a full-time job, just like doing a lot. But I think obviously we talk a lot about side hustles on here, but side hustles kind of get a bad rep almost. It's like, let's just normalize like having a job and like that's fine, and like that is fine. But if you're listening to our podcast and you're like, I know I do think that I want more for myself, but I'm worried about putting too much on my plate, or I don't know like what direction I want to go in. I think it's so inspiring to hear stories of people doing really cool things. And Caitlyn even used the term in this episode like digital mentor, and I think that's a really good way to look at it. Just like hearing stories of people finding success, finding something that they are passionate about, that they want to do outside of their full-time job, and making it a profitable business for themselves. And that's what you're going to hear in this episode from Caitlyn. So I think it's really inspiring mindset tips and all of that. So with that, let's just bring in Caitlyn and get right to the episode.
Welcome, Caitlyn. We're so excited to have you on the podcast today. You've been on our guest list that we wanted to have on for so long. So I'm glad that we all finally got to connect today. We did give a little bit of an intro on who you are in the beginning, but I would love to hear it from you. Can you give us the rundown of who you are and what you do?
Yes, I'm Caitlyn Kumi. I'm a marketer, I'm a founder, and I'm a content creator. I'm the founder of a digital media company and women's community called Miss EmpowHer. We really focused on helping women feel more confident and empowered through personal and professional development. We do that through content, community, and events. That's something that's really, really important to me. I've always been passionate about supporting women, uplifting women, connecting women, and that's truly what we do with our brand, and it's something I'm really proud of. And then I also have a background as a marketer, which is amazing and lends me well as a content creator and having my own business.
I love that. The reason why we wanted to bring you on to today's episode, which you know, is you manage so many different things. One, if you don't mind asking, or if you don't mind me asking how old you are and sort of like what that journey looked like between maybe like college graduation versus where you are now, and that kind of like path between your full-time career and your entrepreneurship journey.
Yes, I mean, I'm definitely not ashamed of my age, so I don't mind sharing. I'm 24 years old. Life between graduating, I went to UNC Chapel Hill for context. It's in North Carolina. So I went to UNC. It's like top public school, like great sports culture, great like business school, great journalism school, like the definition of work hard, play hard. Like that's how I would describe going to UNC. And then transitioning to post-grad where I feel like my life is an answered prayer. Like I truly feel that way. When I graduated from school, it was like we're kind of coming out of the pandemic. Like nobody really knew what was happening. I was living at home. I was working as a consultant at a Big Four firm. It wasn't the most fun. I learned a lot, but like, would I recommend? Actually, like maybe for a short stint, but have an exit plan. Like that would be my advice to anyone. Like have an exit plan if you don't think you're going to be a for-lifer. And for me, that exit plan looked like going into marketing in big tech. I knew that's what I wanted for one, my financial goals. I knew marketing would be a better path for me, just based on my strengths, based on what I was learning from growing my business, and also just to give me a little bit more flexibility. I didn't know that I'd be ready to move from New York. For background, I'm from Maryland. I was like, I'm going to stay at home. I'm going to stay at home for 2 years, have my money, get my house. Like that was my plan. Like that was a plan. Then it was like, you're moving to New York. plan is changing. Um, I decided to kind of put my home buying plans on hold and just focus on investing my money, focus on building my business, focus on growing as a creator, focus on growing my career. And I don't regret those decisions. Yes, it probably would be cool to have that house in Maryland, but I'm really happy right now. Like, I enjoy my life. I'm still able to grow my net worth in a way that makes me feel comfortable and excited and have opportunities I would have never imagined. So I'm just enjoying this post grad season and really leaning into the unexpected, leaning into the opportunity. And I think more people should like leave room to change the plan in their early 20s and mid 20s, even late 20s. I think sometimes we can get so caught up in our 5-year plan, 10-year plan, forgetting that like sometimes you have to leave room for that spontaneity.
Yeah, I love that. I every time I see your post on social media, I'm always like, it just motivates me so much. Like, because you really are doing the most and you just carry yourself with so much grace and you never look overwhelmed. I'm sure you get overwhelmed sometimes. But like every time I'm just like, she is on her game. Like you cannot like catch you like off. You know what I mean? I feel like you just the way that you carry yourself and the way you manage everything is amazing. I want to like touch a little bit more on like your business because I feel like that is something that when I mean, obviously we met at like an event previously and I knew you were a content creator, but then learning that you have this like women empowerment business, I'm like, that is so freaking cool. And like, again, every time I see your posts and stuff, I'm just like, oh, I wish I have no desire to live in New York City. But every time I see like your events, I'm like, oh, I wish I lived in New York City. Like, I want to be in New York City just to like be able to go and connect with women. So, like, when did you start the business? And like, how did the idea come to you and like what has that been like?
Well, one, I love that you said that because like you, so many people have messaged me. They're like, hey, like I don't live in New York. How do I come to Miss EmpowHer events? We are planning for 2025 to scale to other cities. So I'll probably set up time
Congrats.
for you to thank you. I'll probably set up time to talk with you separately, just to figure out like if we want to do something like in your city and stuff. To
Heck
give
yeah.
background and to give background and to like actually answer your question, why I started Miss EmpowHer. Ooh, that goes all the way back to 2020. And speaking of things like that you do and like the importance of sharing, over the past like year, I realized that I don't think a lot of people know that I actually have a digital media company in women's community. Like I don't think people are aware. Like in my mind, I think I'm sharing a lot because by nature I'm a private person, even though I'm a creator. But I realize like people don't actually know. So I need to like start sharing. I need to be more vocal. But I actually started in 2020 in college going to a top public school like UNC, there's a lot of like grant funding. There's a lot of like these entrepreneurial accelerator programs. And again, like this is me realizing that I truly need to start sharing this more so people have background context. I was actually like fortunate enough to be a part of an entrepreneurial accelerator program in college. Each year, it's called the Adams Apprenticeship at UNC. They select some of the like highest performing potential like entrepreneurs at the school to kind of like mentor them and coach them. Like entrepreneurs, angel investors, VCs from our school will like come and literally like nurture UNC's future entrepreneurial talent. So that was a really like impactful program because like my background is in journalism and like communication studies at PR. Like yeah, like my background is not in business. So it was a really, really great program for me. Being in that program, I got like some initial, like small, like seed funding. I think it was like $1,000 or like 1,500, but better than nothing because my daddy was just like, cool, but like I'm not giving money for like cool, but no. So it was really nice to be able to have that program to like learn the fundamentals of business and also to have that support and coaching available to me. So yes, I was a part of this entrepreneurial accelerator program, got my small funding to get started. And I was like, okay, I don't really have a plan. I just know that I want to help women feel more confident. Like that was like the premise of my business. So I actually started as an e-commerce brand. We were selling waist beads. It was really focused on like self-love and body positivity. And after doing that for about a year and a half, 2 years during the pandemic, I was just like, this is not what I want my business to be. Like I want it to be more impactful. Like I want to bring in more personal and professional development and really make that the basis of my business. So I brought on a board of advisors to really guide me in terms of like building the strategy, the long-term vision. And that's what made me realize that I wanted to build a digital media company and women's community that just made a lot more sense for what I was trying to achieve. So over the past 2 years, really did a complete rebrand, like don't really sell our waist beads anymore. Like we sell them, but we don't promote them. Really decided to double down, focus on events as a way to grow our business and grow our brand awareness. And it's really been fruitful and rewarding over the past 2 years, and just excited to see where Miss EmpowHer goes next. Now that I really have like a concrete vision for the future. But I think that's also important to share that sometimes, like, I know the word in business is overused, pivot. Like, just because you started somewhere doesn't mean that you have to stay somewhere. Like, even as a content creator, I've evolved. Like, if you've been following me, like I used to do like interviews with like women and ask them like what their major is, like how they got to where they're like. I don't really do that content anymore. Like I completely pivoted, and now I focus a lot more on like personal finance, beauty, and lifestyle content. But then there was also a season where I was really heavily personal finance focused. So I think give yourself permission to evolve as well is really important in business in order to get to where you want to be.
I love your story so much. And I love that you were able to do that accelerator in college. I feel like a lot of colleges offer some type of entrepreneurship, whether it's an accelerator or just a course or something to kind of like help you learn. But your vision for your company didn't change. It was just like your approach on how you were going to accomplish that vision really changed over the last couple of years. And you said you brought on the advisors, but how did you land on events specifically in terms of like, okay, I know I want to help women feel more confident. I know I want to do a lot in the personal development space for women. How did it kind of like evolve into the event stuff? And how did you like, what did that look like logistically in terms of like, here is how this business is going to work from like a business model perspective or like the business finance perspective? Can you like kind of open up and share anything on that end?
Yes, I think for every person it looks different. And even though I don't have a background in business, I think whether you're a content creator, whether you're someone who has their own business, especially when you think about like marketing and sales, pay attention to the patterns, pay attention to the data and insights, pay attention to that feedback. Like what type of feedback are you getting in DMs? I always tell people look at your comment section, look at your saves, look at your shares. Like pay attention to your target audience. Like there are some times where like I'll study my target audience's stories, like where are the places that they're going, like who are they trying to see, like what are they trying to achieve from going to these events, and really really tailoring that experience for them. When I attend events in person, I literally ask people like, what did you like about this event? What do you think they could have done better? Like I'm constantly getting feedback just so I can be better than my competitors and offer a unique offering, and to really making sure that like when people have an experience at one of my events, it's unique, it's valuable. So I think being intentional and thoughtful. Sometimes I think when doing business or growing, like people can be very self-serving. I think one of the reasons why Miss EmpowHer stands out and myself and how I've grown as a creator, I am in service of others. Like it's not about me. And I think sometimes it's so important to have that mindset if you want to see if you want to succeed, like almost be customer obsessed, be audience obsessed. How can I over deliver for them? That's like always my mindset. And I think it's really served me well as I'm in the process of growing and scaling my business.
I love like your maybe it's because I work in the startup space, like with a lot of my clients being startups. I feel like you are able to marry this like really smart, like businessy side of things. Like you're talking about like pivoting and like the business model and everything, but then also with like using like your intuition and just like you're like connecting with people genuinely. Like I feel like sometimes with business, people get so lost in the research of like, let me read this article about like what my audience said, versus like, but you're like out like in the field, you know what I mean? Like really like doing the work and talking to people and asking them questions. And I feel like that's just like, I don't know, it's just a really cool thing to hear you talk about like how you're really like marrying those two things together and yeah, like being in service of other people and not just like focusing on, okay, how can I like make money as fast as possible with this? But I'm curious if you would be open to sharing a little bit about like, I feel like for most people, when you sell like a specific like product, like, okay, we sell like a t-shirt or something, people understand the business model of like, okay, they buy my t-shirt, I make money. Like, what does it look like to grow an events-based business from the financial standpoint? Like, do you ticket events? Do you like, is there like membership programs, like paid communities? Like, what does that look like?
I love this question. So, like in marketing, we talk about like the lifetime customer value. So, I think again, everything I do is thinking like long term when you
Mhm.
have events. So, for us, we have like some of our like cheaper events that are really targeted towards women who are in college or fresh out of college. We have some of our premium events that are targeted towards women who are in like their mid 20s, late 30s, like have more disposable income. I think it's really important to like meet your community where they are. Cause like for me, our community is like women ages 18 to 34. People who are 34, working in tech, finance, can afford different experiences than those
Mhm.
working, fresh out of college, like living essentially paycheck to paycheck because they don't make enough. So I think it's really important to factor that in when you're doing like your pricing, thinking about your customer. I think also too, one of the lessons that I always got from my mentors too is like, don't be afraid to have a higher ticket option because like that's really how you generate like your revenue long term. I think also as I'm growing and scaling, not just relying on brand partnerships in order to achieve some of like my financial goals and like revenue goals. That's also been a really good learning. One of the podcasts that I actually listened to that's been really helpful as well is The Journey by Morgan DeBon. She is so transparent about her journey growing Blavity. Blavity has Afrotech, which is an events-based business, and I'm always a big proponent of finding your digital mentors online. There is a breadth of information, there's a wealth of knowledge. It's just about finding who are the credible sources. Where am I going to get this reputable information? So I find that really, really helpful as I'm doing like long-term business planning and scaling. Also, too, when you find those platforms, like again, the technology, what's your like toolkit that you're using to grow and scale your business? Make sure that the platforms actually are collecting the right data and insights. So when it's ticketing, like use a platform called Posh, which has been really great for events because one, you not only see like, hey, this person has bought a ticket for this event, you can see how many times they've bought a ticket for your other events. So you can know, okay, like they've come to 3 events in the past 3 months. They are a highly engaged customer. So that when you're going back, you're tailoring offerings, or maybe you're introducing a new offering, that's the person that's your super fan that you want to make sure that you're over delivering for. They're the first to know. They get insider looks into your new products, which helps you scale in the long term, especially if you're trying to have like a membership program or something one day. So I think it's really important to think of like that lifetime customer value as you're curating your events experiences, and then also making sure that you have the right tools that collect that data and insights. Like if you're not collecting emails, you're not collecting phone numbers when you have your events, you're losing so much money and you're losing the opportunity to connect with like your long-term customer. So I would say really make sure you don't forget about having the right systems in place.
I love this so much. And I just want to reiterate that Caitlyn, you're only 24 years old, and you have a full-time job, and we're going to touch on all of that. But I have so many questions for you because this is so incredible. But I think it just goes back to show like it's 2024 and there's so many ways to start a business. Like it is not so clear cut as it was 50 years ago when like if you wanted to start a business, you had to go like get a physical building and sell a physical product, and that was like your only way to have a business. There's so many ways to have a business and like so many creative ways to have it be a profitable business for you. But I would love if you could share like what does your team look like for one? Like how many team members do you have? I know you're talking about like scaling to different cities, not just New York and all of that. So like that's incredible. So what does your team look like for one? And then two, would you share kind of like maybe your largest event that you've done, or like not even your largest, but maybe in your mind, your most successful event?
Yeah, I love this question. So, I guess where do I even start? First things first, my team. Yes, got to stay focused. So, I have a talent manager, and that's been really helpful because, again, like I do work full time, 9 to 5. So she's out there pitching me to brands. She's out there like managing my inbox. I think she uses Asana. Yeah, she does use Asana to manage like all of my tasks. So send me like reminders like this brand deal is due. Sometimes I'll be like, do I have to go to this PR event? She's like, yes, you do. I'm like, okay, I'm going. So it's kind of just nice to kind of have someone be my brain. Of course, I'm definitely involved. Like I'll be like, oh, like I'm always on the emails because I like keep my email first. And that would also be my tip. Like I know sometimes agencies will be like, oh, like we'll give you an email, but I think until you get to like a really like large agency, I think it's okay to keep your email because sometimes I'll be like, you haven't responded to this yet, especially if your manager is managing multiple talent. So I find that really helpful. When it comes to my events, I work with a business partner who has her own agency. So like she's really out there like ideating, okay, like what's this event going to look like? What are the colors? What's the attendee experience looking like? Post thank you emails, like PR and gifting, like she's handling like most of that. Of course, I'm still involved because I own a lot of like relationships, but my job is really just like promoting the event, making sure like our audience gets out there, making sure that my intern team's out there producing like the right like social content, like post event. I like to try to be in approver mode as much as possible. When we have our events, we do have like volunteers that come and like support with like the check-in process, the setup process. What else do we have as a part? Accounting. So I have an accountant who keeps me on track, makes sure that I'm not in trouble with the tax man. I do have a virtual assistant, which just kind of helps me like stay on top of things, which is really, really helpful because, whew, like there's so much going on. Also, Google Calendar is like my best friend. I put everything in there from like my social life, my business, my commitments. And it also really helps me visualize like what's on my plate because I'm not an extrovert. So if I do too much, I have too many events, like I will be depleted. So I really like to visually see what's going on. So yeah, it's quite a system between my talent manager, virtual assistant, accountant, having someone there to like support like with events and experiences. But I would say it was not something that I did all at once. Like it was gradual. Like I probably started with just the virtual assistant and accountant. Then as I started to scale, I got my talent manager. Then as I started doing events, I brought on someone. But I'm a big believer as you start to scale, you need to constantly think, how do I start to outsource? And in my personal life, I talk about this a lot on my social pages. Like anyone who follows me on IG stories or anyone who like watches my TikTok will know I'm the queen of outsourcing. Like I don't remember the last time I went to a grocery store. Like I'm Instacart's queen. And yes, some of the male Instacarters like we're discriminating on here, like nonsense with
It's
what they're
true.
putting in your
It's
cart.
true.
But like the time I save going to the grocery store is so helpful. In busy season, sometimes I'll even like do more delivery. When it comes to like deep cleanings, like of course I'm not a dirty girl. Like I clean up after myself, but like I do not do deep cleanings. I'm not breaking my back. I'll bring in my cleaner like every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Like there was a point where like brand deals were so busy where like she was coming like every week because I was just like I don't have the capacity. And you have to start thinking that way because people are like, oh my gosh, that's so expensive. But it's like, okay, if I'm making X amount for a deal and like that one deal alone at the time is paying for her coming every 2 weeks for a year, like why wouldn't I do that? So I think it's really important to start thinking like, hey, if I'm able to save 2 hours, 4 hours doing this task by paying that money up front in order to have a 10x return, like it's worth it. So I think thinking like that early on has really helped me as well because burnout is real. So that's why I say, like, if you're going to take something on, thinking about like how you can outsource, thinking how you can delegate, that way it's sustainable. Because if you're not well, like everything suffers.
Yeah. I would love to ask you sort of from like a mindset perspective, um, how you think about adding more onto your plate and like why you want to achieve, because you have a really good full-time job. Like you have a very good, very solid 9 to 5 job in big tech, like you said. Why do you keep pushing yourself to do more and to achieve more? Like, why do you want more for yourself? What's sort of like the why behind starting between building your personal brand on social media, building your business? Because I think it's kind of like side hustle culture gets a bad rep almost. It's like, no, let's like normalize just working a job and going about our life, which is totally fine. That's not like the wrong path. It's like everyone's life looks different. But why, what would you say to that? And what's your mindset around?
I love this question. And honestly, it's kind of like that thing of like, is this something like you're born with? Is this something that can be nurtured over time? And I think before I used to think like it's like something that you can really nurture. And I think to some extent, yes. But I think sometimes you're actually just born with it. Like I have been an extra person since the moment I came out of my mother's womb. Like I can't make this up. Like people, like when I was a kid, like my mom used to tell me, we're like very religious in my family. Like people would come up and they're like, your daughter is gonna like do amazing things one day. Like she's a star. And my mom's just like, all right. And now we had a conversation about, now that we're older, she's like, Caitlyn, like, I really think there's like something special. Like, there's like something, and I've just always been lucky, like in my life, like there's been teachers or people who have just like always seen something in me. And now that I'm older, I'm bringing on talent, like even like people I've worked with early on, like 3-4 years from now, like they'll come up and blow, and then they'll remember me and put me on to opportunities, whether that be media features or other things. So I do think that sometimes it's a little bit of like you're born with it, and it's not a thing of necessarily like coming from money or like having all the connections in the world. Like I think it's just like really having that belief that like I can and do. I think a lot of it for me is not privilege from a monetary sense, but having privilege from having a really supportive family that from a young age, like they've told me like anything's possible, like you can achieve, or even just reminding me of instances in our family where like people have been really successful, or from the ground up in one generation, like how they've been able to succeed. I'm also someone who likes to create positive narratives for myself. So I'll find examples of women. I identify as a woman of color. I'll find examples of people who have been able to be successful. I'll really study their journey. Like, what is their approach to life? Like, how have they gone and made different moves? Oprah as an example, like, I know these days everyone is controversial. Everyone has some part of it there, but we're not going to get into that today. But Oprah's journey, yeah, Oprah's journey is really unique. I used to do the series on TikTok where I would like talk about like 3 things you can learn from like different women. I did one on like Kim Kardashian, Lori Harvey. What's the woman with the fluffy hair? Matilda.
Okay.
Yeah, with the last name. I'm struggling. Matilda
I don't
Jer.
know.
I don't either.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I know who you're
Oh,
talking about. I don't know how you say her
Yeah,
last name though, but yeah.
I would like study them and like share their insights. I did one on like Emma Grede, who's like the co-founder of Skims. And with Oprah's story in particular, when she was like growing, the reason why she was so successful with like closing the Oprah show and like her deals is ownership. Like I nailed that as the common tie. And then why she was so successful in like securing those deals, she had a really strong business manager in terms of like negotiating her deals and contracts. And from that, the lesson was like, hey, your team has to make sense. Like, yes, you can do a lot on your own, but then if you're hiring the best of the best to like negotiate the deals, like pitch you, tailor like different outcomes. So that's something that I've always like carried with me just from studying other successful women. I think that's what keeps my mindset sharp. Like I said before, I am really religious and I'm like growing in my faith. I think I used to get really anxious like over everything, but now I feel like I put a lot of worries in like the hands of the Lord. Like I'm just like, it's on you. Like it's not up to me to worry about that. Like that's on you. And I think that's really brought me a lot of like peace. It's really made me feel like everything's gonna be okay in this journey. And then the third thing is just like, I know it sounds weird. It's not even weird, just like supporting others and like trusting the timing of my life. Even when I was starting out, like all of us started growing around like the same time. And I'm going to bring this up. I hope you don't get mad at me for bringing this up.
my
But
gosh.
there was a time when Erin was like really small on Instagram. Like now she's like at over 100. I literally remember, I think you were maybe like 3,000, 5,000 followers. And you're like, I'm so frustrated. Like I'm trying to bring in more lifestyle content, but all I've been doing is personal finance. It's not working. We did not even know each other. And I was just like, doing it. Like over time, all those
Oh my
people
gosh.
who don't want to see, like let them leave your following, and then you're gonna get your super fans. And it's just been so beautiful to like see the journey of like Erin's growth and like to see her success. And a similar thing happened to me. Like so Erin like had her growth. I also had a moment where I'm just like Instagram's just like not working for me. It's so frustrating. And then over the past year, it's really grown. And I think sometimes there are people, and I see it all the time. I mute those people on social media where they just get so frustrated that like someone else is winning and like other things. And I think just like having this mindset of like when someone else is like winning or growing, like having this like collaboration over competition mindset, and not saying it because it just like sounds nice because of alliteration, but like truly practicing it. And that kind of brings in like Miss EmpowHer with like some of the Miss EmpowHer meetups and like partnership programs we've been having with like other women to host events. So it's kind of a lift as you climb approach. I think all of that has like helped me with like mindset, success, and then like getting to where I want to get financially.
I love that. I am curious too. I mean, I was going to ask you what helps you like manage the overwhelm because you have a million things going on. And I feel like you shared a lot of things that help you manage that. But like, what does you mentioned Google Calendar, which I love. I am also a Google Calendar girly. What does your schedule look like? Because you have your marketing job in big tech, you have your business, you're a content creator. I'm sure you also like to just like hang out with your friends and relax and like, do things that have nothing to do with work. Like, how are you dividing your time? Like, what does that all look like?
Yeah, so usually what I do is I try to like wake up early in the morning, like before work, do like some of like my business stuff as it relates to like content or like Miss EmpowHer. So I'm usually like texting my manager, like, okay, like what's due, like what's priority. These are some brands that like I want you to pitch or like follow up with. Like she'll be giving me like updates. Sometimes I'm doing like early morning prayer or journaling if I can get to it. I try to do the gym 2 to 3 times a week. So I'll do the gym. If I'm not doing the gym in the morning, I'll do like workout classes in the evening. So one of the two is usually happening. If I'm not and I'm just too busy, I'll go on walks like in between like work meetings. Like I'll actually be doing like walking meetings. I'm a big fan of that because I try to have exercise in my routine just to maintain like my overall wellness. So that's what my mornings look like. Go into the office, like pretty like unplugged there just because like I'm working. When I get off work, that's again usually like back into business mode. So I'm like going through checking in with like my interns to see how their like different projects for the week's going, finalizing any things for the week for like brand deals and other stuff. I don't really shoot content during the week. It's usually like the weekend I'll batch create. Yeah, I'm a big batch creator on weekends. I'll usually wake up on like a Saturday morning because most of my events aren't until the afternoon. Fridays, I like rarely go out. Like I used to be a professional party girl, like in college. Like every weekend I was at the club. Like that was me. Now, like on Friday, my mom was like, "This is embarrassing. Why are you cleaning on a Friday?" I'm like, I just don't want to talk to anyone. Like my friend will be like, "Oh, are you still coming to the party?" I was like, "I'm at home."
Yeah,
Like
That's me.
same. Yeah,
better be busy
same.
watching Netflix. Like I'm so dirty in that way. I love watching like CNBC Make It. I love watching like Wall Street Journal case studies. My mom was just like, "You're so weird. Like, leave me alone." So that's really how I rest and recharge because I'm not like super extroverted. More I'll like be FaceTiming friends or family. But it's really just a mix of like time blocking with like mornings, having like deep work of like 2 hours in the morning before work, 2 hours or 3 hours of deep work in the evening, and then lots of outsourcing. But as long as I'm trying to eat like 3 meals a day, I'm working out, I'm doing my business at least for like 2 hours in the morning, in the evening, I'm good. If I find myself doing a lot of late nights, because I don't want to lie on here, like sometimes I am up late, I am a night owl. The weekends, I'm catching up on sleep. Like I am sleeping in till like 12 p.m., 1 p.m.
Yeah.
Like my sleep schedule has up by the week. So like some weeks on a good week, it's really disciplined, it's structured. But some weeks, I'm not gonna lie, when like work gets busy, when content, my business, I can be up to like 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. Like I do not recommend that. But like best believe I'm catching up on sleep on the weekend. So
Yeah, I
that's
love that. And that's definitely a testament to how much you love what you do because I can definitely relate. Like, I hardly ever turn my TV on in my apartment ever, like maybe like a couple times a month, if that. Because I'm always just like, I don't know, if it's 8 o'clock at night, I'm just like on my computer. I don't want to say I'm working at that time, but I'm like looking for content ideas or I'm like making a little podcast outline or like checking my email, like, you know what I mean? Because you love what you do and it's fun and it is so fun to like try to achieve more for yourself and like have that ambition. Like it genuinely is fun for me and it sounds like it's really fun for you too. But to kind of like wrap us up here because we only have a couple minutes left, can you touch on maybe like some of your, I don't want to say like best tips for growing your personal brand, but sort of like your why for building a personal brand? Because obviously you're a content creator, you're a super successful content creator, and I'm sure building your personal brand has given you a lot of opportunities that help you build your business, help you in your full-time job and things like that.
Yes, I love that. Before we get into that, I realized I didn't like touch on the fact that like I do have fun, and I think that's important. It's like, people don't think like I don't go out and have fun. I do think it is like people think it's weird when I say I schedule fun, but I really do. Like I kind of have like a fun quota. Like I need to like go out with my friends at least like 3 4 times a month. So like we have a group chat where like I'm always like, oh, there's this party going on in the city, or like I saw this restaurant, or I saw this like TikTok like friend date idea. I'm really intentional about like scheduling it. Like I'll I know it's weird, but I'll literally send my friends Google Calendar invites. Like, we're really at the stage.
Yeah,
I love that. No, I
Like,
love
it's not
that.
weird because we actually realize it's just easier. We all plan with Google Calendar.
for
Let's just
sure.
hold on there before everyone gets busy. Don't do that with all my friends, just my close friends, because it's kind of like a mutual understanding. Don't think we're weird for that, but we do. But to get into your question around building a personal brand, I don't think it was something where I was just like, I'm gonna build my personal brand. Like, here's how I'm gonna like I was not one of those people. I think I probably shouldn't say this. Like, this is where like, okay, I'm gonna say it anyway because I think it's important. I was just like, I don't really love like, chatting with people all the time. I do push myself now because like it just is a part of my business. I do have like 15-minute coffee chats with like new people like almost every week as a way to grow my network, to get outside my comfort zone. Cause like I think it's just really a good practice to have. But in the beginning, I was just like, I need a way to like reach people without having to have like so many like one-on-one touch points. And I think sharing my story, like sharing my lessons, that was just an easy way for me to do that. And then also with like growing a personal brand, it allows you to control your narrative a lot. Some people, like always like to say, some people have universal personalities where like everyone loves them, some people just have that, and some people are an acquired taste. And from a young age, I knew I wasn't for everyone. Like, I cannot stand her. She gets on my nerves. And some people are like, I'm obsessed with her. Like, I want to be her. I want to be her friend. Like, I've just known I don't have a universal personality. From my voice to the way I act, like, I just feel like I can be attracted to some people. So I was like, a personal brand is a great way to humanize me, especially just because I feel like I'm someone where, again, because I'm so private and like to some extent, everything I share is a bit curated because, like, again, once you go on the internet and you start sharing your business, you got to be real careful because you invite commentary, and that's when we're gonna tussle because I'm just
Mhm.
you don't know me, you don't know my life, like we're about to fight. Actually, I don't fight. So I would just say, like, for me, growing a personal brand has been really beneficial in terms of like sharing what's most important to me, helping like opportunities come to me. I remember I had this woman at my work that I wanted to actually be my sponsor, like my mentor, my advocate. And she's like, don't worry. I don't need to like be with you. Like, if you're doing the right work, the right people will like come to me and like tell me about you. And at first I was just like, okay. But then I realized like she was kind of onto something. Like, if you're out there like doing the work, you're sharing the work and people are aware, like you just essentially want to build a personal brand to keep yourself top of mind. Because if everyone knows, they're just like, I can't escape you. Like, I get on LinkedIn, you're there. Instagram, you're there. TikTok, you're there. I guarantee you, if there's something around women empowerment or personal finance, my name will be top of mind for you. And I think that's the beauty of building a personal brand, because when you are consistent about the messages you're sending to people, you're consistent about the stories you're sharing, and you're just a genuine good person, it kind of comes full circle, and that's how like the opportunities come to you. So that's why I think it's so important, especially in this job market. Like, layoffs are just like, you get one, like trying to get another job, or like even like in the content space, like doing brand partnerships, it's not easy. So you want to make sure that you have like other streams of income. Like, if you want somebody to buy your course, your digital product, your physical product, like they're gonna have to know, like, trust you. And how do you do that? Building a personal brand. So I would say it's just kind of like an insurance plan.
Love that so much. Well, this was amazing. You're amazing. And can you tell everyone where to find more from you so that they can look you up and see more content from you and all of that?
Yes, you can follow me at Caitlyn Kumi on all platforms. That's CAITLYNKUMI. Just make sure you have the right one, because I do have some impersonators on TikTok. The right one, just, if you go on my Instagram, you'll see like a verification check if you just want to make sure like there's nobody out there. I'm still going back and forth with TikTok with these impersonators. Don't put that on my worst enemy. And then for Miss EmpowHer, that's MISSEmpowher. You can find us on all platforms. Go on our website, get on our newsletter, so you'll be the first to know about our upcoming events and opportunities. And yeah, like, feel free, if you listen to this, shoot me a DM. I'll send you resources and all of that. But it's lovely being here with y'all. You guys are building something beautiful. So thank you so much for having me, Erin and Grace.
Thank you for coming on. And we'll link all of that in the show notes of this episode as well, so that people get the correct links to your correct socials, because we all deal with the impersonation accounts and they're the worst. But thank you, Caitlyn, for coming on to the Life You Love podcast. It was so amazing. And until next week.
Bye.